Here's the best piece of storytelling advice that I've ever gotten that I use all the time, because you're talking about how like I sprinkle jokes.
Let's talk storytelling.
Yeah, of course. So Ira Glass gave me this movie. Ira Glass was like
as a gangster.
He produced both of my movies, Sleepwalk with Me and Don't Think Twice, and he produced, you know, my last show, the new one, and he's a consultant on the Old Man in the Pool. But he said this thing to me once, it's so smart. I repeat it constantly. He goes, a story, to keep people interested in a story, you tell a little bit of the story, and then you talk about how do you feel about that thing. You tell a little more of the story, how you feel about that thing. And our strength as comics is how you feel about the thing, jokes.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, that's the ball game. For me, that's the structure of everything I do. People want to know, I think, two things. They want to know this story's gonna have an ending.
Yeah.
And they want to know that something's ending.
Yeah, they want to.
That's all.
Yeah.
I always say that, like, comics, like if you have stories, like, go on stage and know where it's ending and know where it's beginning, and then have tons of jokes.
Yeah.
And then see how many jokes the audience lets you get away with. And if you want to bail, go to the ending.
Yep.
I mean, it's all about just skipping to the ending sometimes, because the audience is not there for it. They're like, nah. Yeah. Sometimes you tell a story and they're like, this isn't that good. No, this is what I do all day with, you know, my brother Joe and all Seth and Peter and all my colleagues. Mabel is like we just kick around stories, and it's like, what, and with Ira Glass, like what is not making this an interesting enough story? And I think with yours is like, it's like, in a great story, you're a little bit different before the story than you were after the story. And I think you don't have that yet. No. I think it might exist in you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, do you feel like it changed you at all? And then the other thing is like, it's like, I like, it'd be fun to analyze like the machine story, because it's like, you know, it's like 15 minutes long, and it's like, well, why do we care for 15 minutes? And I think my analysis would be that there's a hook. The hook is, you don't know how to speak Russian. You're in Russia.
Yeah.
Whoa. All right. I'm in.
Yeah.
Like, that's a good like setup of something. Something's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and then you start, then there's Russian mobsters. All right. Tell me more. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, every step of the way, you're going like, I want to hear more about this thing. And then it gets crazier. You're drinking. Then you're robbing people. And then I think what makes it worth being a story that you tell, you zoom out, you go, my ethics, that I don't cheat on my wife. But for whatever reason, at this moment in time, I felt like I'd never thought through whether or not I would rob a train. and that's why it's worth telling. Yeah. Because I think that the way people view stories is through their own lens.
Well,
you're telling the story, and I'm going, as you're telling it, I'm laughing, but going like, it's really true. That's pretty intense. And then you address it, and you zoom out on it, and we go, oh, I didn't see the zoom out coming.
Yeah.
And then you come back in for the final tag, which buttons up the whole thing. And I think like every story in some ways should have that, which is like a hook, something where you go, wait, what's going to happen? This is interesting. And then like something that keeps pulling you forward. And then at the end, something where you zoom out and you go, oh my God, in a larger context, this is like my life in this way as the audience member. And then you zoom back in for a tag of something that occurred. But I think the key thing as an artist, I think a lot of times as a comic is to talk about what you're thinking about. Because that's the only thing that's interesting.
Yeah.
The only thing that's interesting is the thing that you care about a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because so often, like, you see, especially like young comics, and I was guilty of this when I was a young comic. It's like, you see a comic and they're talking about like, you know, the Backstreet Boys or the whatever's popular at that moment. It's like, is that really what you care about?
Yeah.
Is that really your interest? Or like, what do you know? It just changed the way I looked at everything, because I was like, okay, I took my playwriting, screenwriting thing that I'd studied and focused on, and took my stand-up, which I'd really like obsessed over, and it kind of merged them. So I have these shows, they're kind of hybrid shows, and sometimes people go like, well, that's not stand-up, but it's funny when you say like if you're in a Speedo, that's not comedy. It's like, well, no, everything is what you do. You go on stage and you try to connect with people. The way I do it is I tell stories that have some sad parts and jokes, and that's what I do.
Yeah.
And it's like this whole thing of like categorizing, like that's stand-up, but that's not stand-up. This is a play, that's not a play. It's like, who gives a fuck? It doesn't matter.